seriousness. We were asked, and we were married in the Secretary of State's auditorium, because Deb Bowen is a friend of ours. Many legislators came. Sheila Kuehl once again presided, and Darrell Steinberg helped preside. And that too was important for the movement, to demonstrate that our strong political leaders support marriage equality. So the answer to your question is, my number one cause at the moment is to fight for marriage equality, because I believe it's inherent in the 14th Amendment, equal protection.
So I got the right argument.
You did indeed. And so we're fighting for that, and believe we will ultimately prevent these are changing times, they're becoming better educated, but more importantly, more people are out of the closet. And as a result, everybody you talk to now knows gay couples, some of whom are raising children, many of whom are married. They're observing the normalcy of the relationships, but they're observing something more important. One of the things they're observing is the quality of the love and the demonstrative affection they see between these two people, which they can equate to their own experience, or regrettably sometimes can't. They also see that many of these couples are taking hard-to-place children and raising them with discretionary income that give them opportunities they would never have. That's good for society. And
I could see that, but I don't see, there's so many people that just think that, it's one thing to let you raise your own kid, it's another thing to let you raise some adoptive kid. I could see a lot of people, that's going to be a slow one coming, I think.
Well, not in the progressive states. It's common here. In fact, more adoptions now are gay here. And talk to Bob Hearn at Sierra Adoption. He'll tell you that the best adoptions are going on right now are gay couples.
Because they'll take a 6-year-old half black, half Mexican kid or something.
Or with special educational needs or whatever, then hire tutors and shower them with love and attention that they wouldn't get in a foster home where somebody's just being paid to warehouse them. But attitudes are changing. As you see from the polls, the young demographic can't figure out why this is either. Well, I had an experience like that as late as when I was brought into the American Leadership Forum here, which is a group of very mature community leaders, and it requires a week of outward bound. And when we got to the top of the mountain where camping was to occur, not a single one of those males in that group of our leadership class wanted to choose me as their tent mate.
Because they thought you were going to try and boink them?
You don't know whether they're just uncomfortable or they think that's a possibility or what. Finally, one of the men was the dean of the Episcopal Cathedral, and he agreed. So at the campfire that night, when we're getting down into the diversity discussions, I noted that no one had stepped forward and chosen me as the partner for their pup tent at the top of the mountain. And said, I want you to all know one thing. Being gay doesn't mean you're predatory. I happen to be in a committed relationship, as you all know. And when I say committed, it means committed and monogamous. And 3, I don't find any of you remotely attractive. You don't take care of yourselves at all. And I'm interested in people who do. And I have a type, just like you have a type among women. And you aren't it. So it was kind of semi-humorous, but semi-serious. It got the point across. And now every class for 15 years since has gay and lesbian diversity elements in it, just like the people of color, different religious backgrounds, etc. I had to break that ice, though, 15 years ago. Transgender is just another reflection of the complexity of the human experience. And you get to decide if you're going to be at the early edge of being progressive and smart about that, or if you're going to be dragged kicking and screaming into the ultimate reality that they have a right to be anywhere, to equal rights, to be protected, equal access to opportunity of every kind, because you just got lucky, buddy.
I know that.
You just got lucky. Somebody else came out with a hand dealt to them that made it way more difficult to live. But they made a really, really brave decision to go live as who they really feel they are, because the psychological implications of not were driving them to suicide or pain that's hard to describe. So we get to decide whether or not we want to be, we know that in a few years ahead, this is going to be, the younger demographic is showing that they feel similarly about transgender. because they're learning more and more about the vagaries of how we're born, that process of the chromosomes and things. Sometimes it hits the way we think it ought to.
Well, sometimes you're tall and good looking. Sometimes you're short. You look at a donut and get fat. You know, and some people are good looking. Some people are not good looking. Some people's teeth work. Some people don't. I have diabetes. My brothers don't. You know, it's just.
So my middle brother is straight. I'm gay, and our youngest is transgender. A former Vietnam War hero, an air traffic controlman, an avid hunter and fisherman, a husband and father of two, but came to the realization late in life that he had always been a woman, and is now living authentically as a woman. She's really unattractive, really doesn't have good taste in grooming, hair, clothing, etc.
Does she get laid?
No. Well, does now, yes. Now has a girlfriend in a very unusual relationship.
So she's lesbian.
She is a totally heterosexual transgender person who is only interested in women, as she has been her whole life, but needs a person in her life who is interested in a woman. Her. Now, as this kind of woman. And she hasn't had the surgery and doesn't intend to either. So this young woman who's now fallen for her has to make the conscious decision that I'm attracted to you, I love you, and I'm willing to put up with the fact that you still
have a penis.
Exactly. Or as the young person says, your junk's still intact. So my point is, once we come to understand that this is part of the human experience, and once we say we believe that we were all truly born equal and have the right to the pursuit of happiness under our Constitution, then any law that will foster that opportunity for you is probably defensible, especially if it got through both houses and got signed by a governor.
And so you would advocate a law that gives a transgender, even one that makes most people feel really creeped out.
Yeah, because that's immaterial to me.
Okay. Have the same protection, that they must be admitted to any school and must be considered for any employment with the same grounds as absolutely everyone else, even though a normal consideration for a job, like let's say you're IBM, right? And you have Salesforce, or any big company that has a large sales force, and a transgender person applies as a salesperson, they should have all the consideration, even though IBM doesn't hire fat, ugly people.
Well, that's not true in the first place.
Okay, well they might have them working there, but they didn't hire them that way.
I don't know whether that's true or not, but
Okay.
I know that they do not have a policy against hiring fat, ugly people.
Okay.
That would be illegal. And IBM is one of the companies that's now touted as having some of those progressive hiring policies. So what I'll say to you is this. The minute a civil society finds out that some among them, living as who they self-identify, living as who they are, is being denied equal opportunity, then under our Constitution, it is the duty of the legislature and the Congress to fix it. And
Period.
Period. And it is
Regardless of how everyone else feels about it.
well, remember, not everyone else feels that way.
Okay.
Demographics, as we've just talked about,
Are
gays and
shifting.
lesbians, are
Are
shifting and
mhm.
changing. And if we're really smart as a people, we'll become, instead of how we're seen as a puritanical, judgmental holdover from the past by Europe, we will become progressively more inclusive and not tolerant. Not tolerant, that's a terrible word. We'll become more appreciative of differences. And when we find out that some among us don't have equal opportunity, and worse yet, are driven to end their lives early or beaten, often with the approval of others around them, let's go roll the fag, as you put it, as your friend put it, then it's our duty to protect them.
Well, this was 30 years ago, though.
If I were a school principal today, and any youngster in my 1,200 student community was being singled out for abuse for being black,
Anything.
fat, disabled,
Speech impaired.
whatever, it's my duty to teach my faculty, my parents, and my students collectively to wrap around that child and make them feel as welcome as possible and as safe and secure and loved as possible. My view is that we can't have it both ways. We can't say, I feel these spiritual, some might even say kind of sacred instincts to public service and to elevate civil discourse and to improve the quality of life for humankind and to elevate the species. We can't say that we feel called or motivated to do those things and then be selective about which humans we're willing to protect or care about or love or whatever. It's a compulsion to serve all.
I'm gonna try and clarify that for a moment. So let's say I could agree with you that we have to protect and serve them and even love them, but okay, I like girls with brown eyes and brown hair. Okay? So, and I don't like other kinds of girls as much. I like all girls, but as much. So I discriminate. I discriminate in who I choose to be in, all the different relationships I choose to be in. Okay?
Yeah.
So it just is, we all do. It's appropriate that we do that. So we have to make sure they're not discriminated against in a societal way. But how do we draw the line? I'm not clear on, because you can't say you must let this person live in your house or you must spend all day every day with this person.
Well, I think you're very clear. You just don't realize how clear you are. You're very clear that in your personal life, like me, I don't have a number of transgender people in my circle. I have no drag queens in my immediate circle of friends, blah, 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 blah. That's just because there's a certain type of person I gravitate to and choose to be my friends. As I become more immersed in the human narrative, as I become more familiar with just how the vagaries of the human existence, I expect that will change in my lifetime. If I have another 20 years to live, I expect that my circle will expand in that regard. But for the moment, that's just the way it is. But that's private and it's personal. When it comes to public accommodations, when it comes to
employment,
when it comes to equal opportunity to be treated in a hospital, transgender people, when they go into an emergency ward, for instance, sometimes
sit there all day. They sit there all day.
We'll let the freak sit. We'll let the freak sit. She's probably just having a hormonal problem. That's the kind of thing that should never occur.
Well, my mother was a nurse, and she told me that one time my ex-wife, I took her to the ER at Cedars-Sinai, and they told us it was just nerves. And my mom got mad. She said that they do that to women. They don't actually examine them and treat them. They just say it's nerves. So that's the same thing you're saying, only like multiplied.
Well, it's even worse when in what is supposed to be one of our most enlightened professions. If someone would actually indulge that almost total stupidity and make kind of an off-the-cuff diagnosis without so much as even a
blood test,
an examination or testing, to just succumb to a societal stereotype is even more indefensible for the educated. I mean, we expect the ignorant among us, those who are uneducated or who for the most part, live in a part of our society that doesn't want. They nurture their own prejudices and stereotypes. They run with a pack that would pick on the transgendered person. When you make those choices, that's the environment in which you're immersed, and it's likely to color your own attitudes. I choose to move in a circle, both gay and straight, who are the people who are the most enlightened in this regard, and are the most committed to moving all boats up, all people forward, knowing that the truth of the matter is that we are the most diverse species ever conceived. We're amazingly different. And what we have to realize is there's one thing we have in common, and that is we are this unique species, this humankind. So unique that if the planet's to be saved, if life is to be viable, we're responsible for it. And
Not only responsible, but capable.
quite capable. My mind is so open on all fronts that I'm almost never conclusive about anything anymore. Politics, religion, anything.
I'm going to give you two examples of viewers, hypothetical viewers. One of them, well, they've lived much the way you have. They've been successful, they're socially active, but there's a little, they might be married, kids maybe not, whatever, but they have a busy life, a lot going on. They're busier than a one-armed paper hanger. Except one where they diverge from you is they've never given any money or energy or time to any cause other than their own narrow self-interest. And the other person is similarly never given anything other than their own narrow self-interest, but they're struggling in their life, maybe serially unemployed, not very educated, whatever. They're trying, but it's all they can do each day to get dinner on the table. Why should either of the, speak to them individually, why should each of those people